Dear Sega, my name is Olivier Poirier, otherwise known on the internet as Oliver the Gamer 3, and I have for you a very special message in terms of the property of your most beloved IP, Sonic the Hedgehog. Fuck you! What the fuck happened? And I mean this in a literal sense. We have been waiting for a decent Sonic game for over 4 years now. Okay, Sonic Boom Fire and Ice hasn't come out yet, but let's be honest, it's gonna suck. I'll allow myself to go down the line. And it goes as far as the 10th anniversary of Sonic the Hedgehog. So let's just jump back in time a little bit. Back in 1998, in the golden days of the Blue Blur, you had a fairly well-received, critically and financially game called Sonic Adventure. The game did not age as well as it did, or maybe as you were expecting, but it still passed the test of time in which the fans still think it had great concept and had great mechanics in some regions. 3 years later, in 2001, you released the widely beloved Sonic Adventure 2. And this is where people started to be divided towards Sonic. Don't get me wrong, I love Sonic Adventure 2. It's my favorite Sonic game of all time, if not my favorite game of all time. I know it is for the wrong reasons, but still, I really love this game. But because of so, fans began to be divided. Which should be the modern Sonic? The one with the adventure formula, or the one with classic formula? We end up with something that's so indecisive and that you're still hesitating of putting it out there that we cannot establish what is Sonic now. Is it a game about a blue blur going through the hills and then finding a giant fat man liberating animals with spectacle, or just an outright epic going through space, time and everything using powers beyond recognizable with still the same spectacle but with an otherwise more edgy tone to it? And because of your hesitation, you begin to put out shit. Since after 2001, it all went downhill from here. A few years later, you've released Sonic Heroes, which at the time was very mixed and it still is today. Although maybe the game has aged better than both first adventure games, it still is a fairly mixed game in terms of receival. You didn't know what to put out, so you tried something new, a new formula, and by trying to mix things up, you actually confused more people into believing Sonic was something else that it once knew. Afterwards, Shadow the Hedgehog was released, and I don't even think I need to mention anything that is actively wrong with this game. 1 year later, at the 15th birthday of the Blue Blur, you've released a port of the original Sonic the Hedgehog on the Game Boy Advance called Sonic Genesis, which is arguably the worst Sonic game ever. You've turned an excellently crafted game and made it shit. And during that same year, you've also released the widely known and widely hated Sonic 2006. Now, Sonic 2006, while almost universally hated, some people do actually like it for what it tried, or at least the mechanic that would have been if the game was actually finished and fleshed out. And to that I can actively agree. And you actually try to turn back to some of the formula that you've tried before, making something of a Sonic identity more recognizable since the last few years. Actually, since Sonic Adventure 2, you begin to shape the Hedgehog again, but because you've rushed the game, it just didn't plan out the way you wanted to. But it still sold incredibly well. But the critics were to agree that this is not related to the overall score of the game, only because you've redone something that people were used to. You've tried to reshape the identity that was there a few games prior, all the way back to Sonic Adventure 1, Sonic Adventure 2, and even Classic era. You've begun to shape again the Hedgehog. But the game was so poorly received that you had to change it again. 2 years later, Sonic Unleashed. I actually kind of like Sonic Unleashed as an overall game. As a Sonic game and how the series was headed, this was another shape in the form. This was another completely misstep on the entire franchise as a whole. Once again, you stepped away from what we've known. You've introduced something new, the Werehog, which is almost universally hated once again. But because you've hidden those daytime sections, you've created yet again a new identity for Sonic. Heading from somewhere more lighthearted, not as edgy, having less attitude and stuff like this. The game was still received mixed reviews, but was still decently received by fans as far as I'm aware. 2 years later, the probably most controversial game you put out there, Sonic Colors. Sonic Colors is either absolutely loved or absolutely hated. People who actually like Colors like it because it simplified something that was way too complex and trying way too hard, shaping a little bit back to, what Sonic was, although changing his identity yet again, and changing a character as a whole because of so. And this is why people hate it for the exact same reasons. The game was critically acclaimed and did financially well, but still divided by fans because they didn't know what to think. They were confused about what was Sonic. And then you guys actually did something right. 1 year later, you released Sonic Generations. Sonic Generations stepped up his game in terms of gameplay, shaping again back to something that we kinda knew. Since 3 years prior, we had Sonic Unleashed, which was a mildly popular game at the time, so people actually know where it was hitting at, and people actually know where this came from. So instead of trying something else, you went back to do something people knew of, as well as bringing back classic Sonic, which I still believe is a genius move from you guys, since it shows the past history of the Blue Blur, and kind of bring back his level design, how the game was designed to begin with, and just the mechanics in general, mixed with modern Sonic was unbelievable. Even stepped up on Sonic gameplay to accommodate with the open level design from the classic games. We once again had something that was reforming here. In terms of gameplay, in terms of presentation, in terms of spectacle, Sonic Generation returned all of this and more when it comes to gameplay and again presentation. But the character still wasn't the same. You've tried to get back Sonic from his Sonic Colors day, and although that worked for some people still hate it. Because once again, you're mixing up stuff. You're trying to accommodate new things for new people, and that's completely fine. But why not introduce new fans and old fans to the same character, to the same identity of the franchise? 2 years later, we've had Sonic Lost World. Once again, an excessively mixed received game. Scores have went through 4 and 7s and back and forth like this all along. Some people like it because it felt like a real 3D adventure, contrary to Sonic Colors, which was 80% 2D most of the time. It truly felt like a, 3D Sonic game that we haven't had in a long time. 7 years to be exact. But once again, you mixed up what we knew. You introduced new gameplay mechanics. You've changed everything up. You now added run button for Sonic, changing again the identity of gameplay and presentation. There wasn't as much spectacle. There wasn't as much scenarios. There wasn't as much treacherous obstacles to conquer and stuff like this. We didn't get the big fish leaping over the water chasing you and then just you doing tricks and all over. You were missing once again the thing that worked out so well in Generations. That was only 2 years after this game, and the character still changed. You mix it up so much, and we still could not recognize the character. And 1 year later, you decided to go the spin-off way, which, at first glance, everybody seemed to not mind at all. Having a spin-off series is fine, but then you went too far with it. You advertised it like a main series game. There hasn't been a main modern quote-unquote Sonic game announced in quite a while, with the exception of maybe mobile games out there, and they're not the one people are seeking for. And because your spin-off has taken so much of this series, you now have an empty shell, something that can be repaired. Do one more game right. Don't try to add something new. Don't try to bring new mechanics. Don't try to change the world of Sonic. And already what it is, just add to it. Add elements that fits the character of the beginning of the franchise. Don't change Sonic into something new again. The character needs to stay the same. if you want to believe he actually has an identity. There's a reason why Sonic is the butt of so many jokes in the entirety of the internet. It's because his last 15 years have been a wreck. People are confused, people don't know what to think of certain games, people don't know how to react. You've divided fan bases because you've introduced new fans to something completely new. You mix it up with old fans, you're confusing them, and new fans are just not that interested because it doesn't look as interesting. And when new fans are looking at old games, they wonder why it was this way. You're confusing so much people and so much of the identity of the character that nobody can actually recognize it. Like I said, this character, this IP, is an empty shell now. You've now announced a game that nobody is looking forward to, and the space is wide open for a new Sonic game. It's nearly the 25th anniversary of Sonic the Hedgehog. Make something happen. The fans will love it. Newcomers, I'm sure, will love it if it's done well in terms of presentation and gameplay. The general public will love it. The critics will love it. The best advice I can give you is, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Currently having a discussion around what actually is Sonic is one of the most interesting conversations you can have right now in the Sonic community. And for good reasons. Nobody knows exactly what to think. And yet there's so much out there that proves that there can be so much greatness that this franchise can bring. A great example of it is an indie game called Freedom Planet. If you haven't seen it or haven't played it, then you're truly missing out on one of the most interesting Sonic kind of games ever. And truly show off what the blue blur can be. And the fact of the matter is, Freedom Planet has actually more of a Sonic identity than Sonic itself, or at least in the recent years. This is why I'm asking you, Sega, to stay to something. Give the fans something that they can stay with. Create something better. Create something of their own. Let the imagination flow free. Everything's so divided now that we don't know where we are. The only thing keeping this IP alive is the fan base itself. And even that won't last for very long. I know this is a very scattered opinion and not everybody will actively agree with me. In fact, I heavily doubt anybody will. But as far as I'm aware, that's how I feel about Sonic's identity. About Sonic in general. I want desperately Sonic to be good again. And though I've enjoyed part of the games that he releases, a lot of them rub me wrong for the wrong reason. I'm a huge fan of the IP, not the franchise, the IP. And that's the thing that I think you guys need to look for. I'm not telling you, Sega, to make another Sonic Adventure game. I'm not telling you to make a sequel to Sonic Colors, a sequel to Sonic Generations. I'm telling you to do a good game that people want. The rest, nobody could give a shit about. If it goes well, do whatever you will with it. Just don't fuck this up. I said fuck you at the beginning for a good reason. I said it because I'm fucking tired. Because so many of the fans are just on the breaking point right now. Please, do the fans justice. But most importantly, show people why Sonic is awesome. My name is Oliver Gaming 3, and I'll see you all next time.